I'm Mike Bellevue, and today I want to talk to you about patching for balls for flintlock rifles, like this TVM Early Virginia rifle, which is a 54 caliber. I ran some experiments this summer on different patching materials, and I wrote an article for Muzzleloader magazine on it. And one of the things I was curious about, and have been for a long time, is the efficacy of patching with leather, like this piece of deer hide, as opposed to using pillow ticking or linen. So, as I said, I ran some experiments on that, did a little testing, and the article on Muzzleloader is going to be coming out pretty soon, so I thought it might be interesting to do a video as well and let you know what I found out. I first got interested in the whole idea of using leather to patch round balls and muzzleloading rifles back when I was about 13 years old, and I read James Fenimore Cooper's book, The Pathfinder. And his character, the Pathfinder, leather stocking, Hawkeye, etc., Natty Bumppo, he said the following. He said, "No, no, O Deuce," he answered. "I do not seek blood without a cause, and my bullet is well leathered and carefully driven down for time of need." Okay, that stuck in my head because I had never thought about leather patching for muzzleloader balls until then. So I was kind of curious, and I know that James Fenimore Cooper is not exactly the person you would want to build all of your historical research around. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with his literary mistakes. But you gotta think, he grew up on the western New York frontier during the time when muzzleloaders were the guns that were used, and he saw them shot all the time and shot them himself. So you gotta think that things that he handled directly, he might have actually knew what he was talking about. And that just got me thinking. And, what it made me wonder is, okay, sure, in the settlements, I'm sure people were patching with linen cloth. It was readily available. But what about people out on the frontier, especially people who were gone for months or sometimes even years at a time, like the long hunters? I mean, Daniel Boone was gone for 2 years at one point. They were hunting deer hides. That was one of the major hunting crops at the time. So they would have had a lot of skins around. And, when you get the belly skins, like you can see in this picture here, where they're kind of thin already, they're not really much good for leather work. I'm sure there's plenty of those around your camp if you're a long hunter. So would they have used those for patching rifle balls? That's what made me wonder. So I thought I'd see really how well they would do the job. I mean, could leather patching be a viable alternative? So in order to put this to the test, I gathered up 3 different patching materials. The tannish colored material you see in the picture, that is a goatskin split. The white leather is a deer hide, some of the belly skin. And then we've got the typical pillow ticking cotton cloth. Now here's kind of the problem. The pillow ticking is about 15 thousandths of an inch thick. And you can get it in various thicknesses. That happens to be what I'm using. It runs 15 to 10/18th of a thousandth thick. The goat skin is a 15th of a thousandth of an inch thick as well. But the deer hide is like 300ths of an inch thick. Quite a bit thicker than either the goat skin or the ticking, or I interchange linen with that ticking all the time. It's about the same thickness. I've got some good heavy duty linen. So in my way of thinking, a frontiersman wouldn't have 2 different ball molds. Either he would use a leather that was as thick as his linen, or he would have to use leather all the time. So I decided to try to do everything as thick as linen. And I had kind of mixed results. In order to thin out that deer hide, what I did is I stretched it on a board and I scraped it, which would not be uncommon for a frontiersman to do in camp anyway. You've got to get all the flesh and fat and whatnot off of those hides before you pack them off. So they have to scrape them anyway, and they generally thin them out for making brain tan leather and that sort of thing. So I've got this piece of leather that runs between like 3/100ths and 4/100ths of an inch thick. And I've got to get it down to about 2/100ths of an inch thick, maximum. I mean, that was kind of my goal. And I found out that was more difficult than you might think, or at least it was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So I scraped at it pretty hard, and I managed to get it down pretty close, 25 thousandths of an inch thick, but still a lot thicker than the ticking or the goat skin that I was using. So the upshot of that is I did have to run 2 different diameters of balls in my 54 caliber rifle for this test anyway. I ended up using a .520 inch balls for the deerskin leather patching, and I used my usual .530 balls for the ticking and for the goatskin splits. During the shooting tests for this little project, all of the patching material got lubed with pure lamb's tallow, which is my lube of choice for round ball guns. To conduct this test, everything was shot in my 54 caliber Tennessee Valley muzzleloading early Virginia rifle. All the loads consisted of 80 grains of 3FG GoX black powder, and then the patch and the round ball. I did prime with 4F for this. Quite often I prime with the same prime as in the horn, but it was just easier for me to use a little primer. So I'll take you out to the range and show you what I did. Right now it's mid-December and we're having an ice storm. So you're going to see quite a different environment because I did this test during the height of the summer. I shot from the bench rest at 25, 50, and 100 yards with all 3 patching materials. Well, as you can see, at 25 yards, everything shot just fine, very accurately. But I'll be honest with you, with any decent rifle, you could shoot a rock wrapped in a leaf at 25 yards, and it ought to give you decent groups. So that's really not much of a test. So next we'll move on to 50 yards. At 50 yards, I got kind of an odd result. The target on the right was my normal 80 grain target, and as you can see, the pillow ticking and the deerskin both turned in very acceptable groups at 50 yards. But for some reason, my goatskin group was all over the place. Just no idea why it was shooting like that. So I backed off the charge to 75 grains, and I tried another target with the ticking and with the goatskin, just the ticking as a control. And the goatskin shot fine. And as you'll see, it shot fine with 80 grains at 100 yards. So I don't know what was going on there. That was the only weird result I got all day. But basically, everything shot fine at 50 as well. After I shot the 50-yard target, I went out and I retrieved patches and just took a look at them, and they were all fine. Nothing's cutting, nothing's blowing by. They're all doing good. In fact, with the leather ones, and this is one of the benefits of leather patching, I could have just greased them up and shot them again. That's how good they were. So at 100 yards, once again, everything shot fairly well, and surprisingly this time goatskin turned in the tightest group. So as to the question, can leather patching be shot effectively? Well, the answer is obviously yes. It can shoot as well as cloth patching, though it does no better. And in terms of velocity, it really didn't seem to make any difference at all which patching material was used, but it'll shoot accurately. Now, the question of whether or not frontiersmen did use leather patching is certainly not answered, because a yard of linen makes a lot of patches and it's pretty easy to pack into the backwoods. So would they have used linen or would they have used leather? I don't know. But leather patching was fun to play around with, and maybe it's something you'd like to try yourself. It always pays to try something different every now and then and see how it works out for you.